Hello Korlourful, welcome back to the channel. In the previous video, I shared with you why you should not start your self-growth process with journaling and what you should do instead. Now in this video, we are going to talk about journaling. I mean full journaling, like journaling in 3D. How to journal your way to success. And I'll share with you everything you need to know, even how to overcome that fear of what do I write when you get a new journal. And just everything you need to know, the benefits of journaling. I'm going to share my own experience, how this thing has worked for me like magic over the year. I mean, when I started journaling, I didn't know what journaling was. I just had to write down something from my life. I just had to write it down in obedience to Habakkuk 2 verse 2 and 3. I just heard that scripture one time in church and it's like, bro, what have you ever written down for your life? And like, it was nothing. So this is like back in 2000 and when I was 2015 or so, like, oh, let me just write down anything. And I did. And I stumbled upon that jotter, I think years after, when I was done with school, and I realized that everything that I wrote on that jotter with the timestamp actually came to pass. I mean, when I was a student, I had other jotters, other journals I used for other stuffs. But that particular journal I wrote 2015, everything I wrote down with the exact times, I forgot about that particular thing. But then I came back and realized that everything happened. Like, I'm like, oh my god. So I will share with you the benefit of journaling, and if you're still here, please subscribe, because in the next video we'll talk about self-growth for tech professionals, for students. It will be more in-depth, step by step. So just join the community and let's do this colorfully. Now, why should you journal? The idea here is that our brains can be likened to a smartphone, like a smartphone. I pray you're not. There's Android and iPhone brain. Now, our brains can be likened to a smartphone. Now, when you are running one application on that smartphone, it's a bit smooth, everything is running properly. But by the time you have like 5-10 things running on that smartphone, some of them in the background, you realize that most times when you go back to that first one, it's worse if you're using Android. I pray you don't have Android brain. It's worse when you're using Android phone. By the time you go back to that first application they opened like 2 hours ago, you've forgotten, you get to reload. If it's a browser, it reloads the page and you lose whatever information was on that page that wasn't saved. Now, we know how busy life can get. You're trying to meet up with work stuff, family. There's a whole lot of things running on your brain actively. And if you're not intentional about like moving that information from the temporary, your RAM, front of your brain, to a permanent storage where you can actually recall these things, it becomes very difficult. Most times you take like 6 months. Oh, I had a plan of doing this thing. That's like 6 months after. Or maybe like a few days. Luckily for you, if you have a good iPhone brain, ouch, you get to remember it sooner. So where does journaling come in from? Journaling is just you being able to transfer your active information from your brain, which is unlimited, but limited in a way, to some way where it's like solid. You can see it again, you can recall. It just makes your brain work easy for you. You offload some of the data, some of the information from your brain, and just store it some way permanent to an extent. So now, what should you journal with? There have been debates of, okay, digital journaling is better, this one is ancient. But for a first time journalist, oh, that's beautiful. So if you get to journal, I mean, you are a journalist. Okay, so if you're journaling for the first time, I will always recommend that you start with something solid. Now, when you're writing, this direct connection between your what do we call it? Like your hands and your brain. Like when you're writing for the first time, it kind of like gives you the ability to reflect. Like you have this, you're very reflective. You're just thinking deep. You're just enjoying your. Most people will not agree to this. That's your voila. Go and figure out that for yourself. So when you're journaling with your paper and pen, it just gives you the ability to like kind of like reflect, think deeper into things, And for me, I started with this stuff like this. This is quick book, like stuff with line. But over time, it didn't really work for me. I realized, I'm a more visual person. I like to draw maps instead of writing in straight lines. So I got a lot of these. I switched over to stuff like this, where you just get to, there's no line, there's no limit. You just write, you draw as the thing they come, as they enter. You just spell it out like that. Now, the benefit of this is that it's on the go. Your smartphone, anything that is digital, you have access to it 247. But also note that it can be distracting where you're like journaling something important and then yeah, boom, notification. You have to maybe check something. It can be urgent and it kind of like distracts you, steals you away from that moment. So that's why I use this, but most times I rely on my physical journal. So this is on the go. It's mobile. Wherever you are, you don't have to, oh my god, I forgot it. It's on the go. But this one is always Bay. This is Bay. So whichever works for you, I combine both of them. You can do the same thing. You can stick to one. I mean, you can sketch here too. So there's no rule to it. As long as you're able to just pour out your brain, pour out your mind, whichever one works for you, please stick to that. Now, let's talk about what to actually journal. Now, why I started with the previous video on personality test is it kind of builds up to this. So now you have your journal. What do you write on it? It can be very scary when you open your blank journal, like what for a first timer, you don't know what to write. They say write your goals, write your vision. Remember we talked about if you're in rock bottom, how do you write? There's nothing to write. So, but now that you took that test from the last video and you're now aware of yourself, you know who you are to an extent, you know your strengths, your weaknesses. That's a great place to start from. So you just write down your strengths as a person. You write down your weaknesses, and then you're like, okay, adjustments you're supposed to make. Maybe they told you about your career recommendations, so you do more research. Or what careers can an analyst do? What career can a logistician do? What career can I do as a defender or an artist, entrepreneur? So you just write down. That's like a good way to start. You just write down the career. Now that you've done that, the next thing you can write down is, okay, what skills do I need to learn? So it kind of like adds up. You have some way to start from, not just having a plain sheet and you don't know, your brain is like blank. That is, so watch that video. Most importantly, watch that video, learn, take your test, and then you can now implement your journal. You write on it. So that is it. And maybe in a different video, I'll just talk about more of goal setting, talking about how to set your goals based on the essay activities. I think I made a video on that. I might tag it in the description. MA activities, FA activities, essay activities, SSA activities, just so that it's on the go. So please, if you've been journaling and it has worked for you, do well to just share your experience in the comment section, so that first timers like would kind of like feel inspired and just get to journal their way to success. Journaling is good. A lot of my mentors actually journal. They have a well-written plan. And for people that will tell you, no, journaling is not really, these are people that probably journaled in the past and they've been able to make their lives into routine, from not to do, into routines, to a point where they just know, we woke up in the morning, 8 to 10 is this and that. They have everything all stocked here. They're like, it's very simplified lifestyle for them. Every other thing is handled by VAs and assistants, and they just know, okay, my routine, they have these routine activities. That makes that process they don't have to really journal, but everyone has a journal. Every successful person that you know has a journal. So please make sure that you journal. Just make life easy for you. You don't have to carry all that load, all that responsibility, all that information on your brain. Don't kill yourself before your time. Alright, so if this video was helpful, please share. And most importantly, just subscribe, be a part of the community. I have more to share with you. And thank you for tuning in today. So stay colorful and see you in the next video. Bye for now. Peace. Whew. Wait, you're still here? Come on, subscribe now. Why are you? Video has ended. Subscribe, Joe. What's your problem?